tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I am here with the coach, John Brent.
Man, I'm here with the vet, Mr. N. Griffin, and it's the end of the year already.
It is. This is the finale, 2022.
Seems like we just did 2021.
I know. I remember that. I remember what we did for, I remember what we did for the predictions of this year. But
I remember my dad saying when I was a kid, I say, it seems like it takes so long to get out of school. I just want to get out of school. And he goes, son, the older you get, the faster it goes.
Yeah, it is going by. Man, so 2022, there's a lot of things going on.
Good, bad, and ugly.
Good, bad, and ugly. And, you know, we talked about this first year, and we kind of called the shots on this show right here. Is the first one, probably the most, the biggest thing out there is around February 26th, Russia invading Ukraine. And we only called it like 8 weeks earlier. We actually called it right after the Afghanistan diabolical.
And if I remember correctly, it just came to me. We talked about the end of 2021, and what are some of the predictions for 2022?
Yeah.
And one of yours was exactly what happened.
I mean, Ukraine would be invaded. My prediction was either Ukraine would be invaded by Russia or Taiwan would be invaded by China.
Yeah.
One of the two, because of we showed our ass, you know, walking out of Afghanistan in the worst possible way you could imagine. I mean.
Yeah, that prediction was spot on.
And the world saw it and saw weakness, smelled it.
They still smell it.
Yeah,
it's
they
not
smelled
over
it.
yet.
And that was an easy prediction. I mean, that was a softball, that was the size of a freaking one of those dodgeballs we used to throw.
Yeah.
You know, coming up for slow pitch status, and but unfortunately, you know, and this country here, you know, we get our panties in a wad over things like a billionaire buying Twitter that happened this year, when people in Ukraine losing their lives, their livelihood, and that country will not be the same for at least 10 years, 20 years.
Oh, at least, yeah. The infrastructure is just destroyed.
And it was a beautiful country. So anyway, so that's probably the overarching one, but there's some other ones, and there's some powerful ones that had major influences on America itself. So anyway, throw something out here at me, Coach.
Just offhand, one of the things that I think about is I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it, and there's such a hotbed. It's kind of like the whole, Colin Kaepernick thing. One side of it's an emotional issue, but the Brittany Griner thing talked about all year after she got, you know, arrested and then was convicted and then put into prison, and then we knew that with all these social issues that come along with everything that has to stand with Brittany Griner. It's not that she's just an American that had some oil and was arrested in Russia. She was a gay WNBA woman of color, and it made it this huge issue.
Yeah.
And then in the very end, what all of us were hoping wouldn't happened, that we ended up making the Minnesota Viking Herschel Walker trade by giving away giving away this arms dealer that was just amazingly bad guy throughout the world for a normal U.S. citizen.
Yeah, and we left U.S. citizens over. So
absolutely.
I mean,
so that was one that came to mind.
They had been there longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can promise you, you know, in 10 years from now, my grandchildren sit on my knee and they go, "What happened in 2022?" That will be something I probably ain't even going to discuss because
probably not.
It's just whatever.
One of the things that I want to end with that on is we've always been told do not negotiate with terrorists. Yeah. And so when you do this, what is he going to ask for next? When he knows that this one little person that means nothing to the world, that we can get this guy, which meant so much to the world, this killer, what is he going to ask for Wheeling, and what is he going to ask for the next one?
So we'll talk about it. That's the first point. But the second point is this will limit the ability if we ever find a truce and we all get along together for a little bit, you know, and all this other stuff, and decide to eat the same dinner table again, and all those things, is it will limit the ability for Americans to go visit Russia. And some people say, I don't ever want to visit Russia. Well, I would love to go. I would love to go. I'd love to see it. I've studied Russia an awful lot. No, I'm not a conformist or none of that other stuff. Not a terrorist, not a socialist, not a communist, none of those things. True-blooded American.
Is there any books back there that say Russia on it? We could probably get canceled.
Yeah, watch out.
Be careful.
But I'll just say, you know, I would love to go to St. Petersburg. I would love to go to Moscow. And but that's going to limit that, because if you go, you're a target. And if you go, you know, the people, it used to be the KGB. I don't know what they call them things anymore. But they'll be like, okay, there's JB. Let's see. Well, he's not a basketball player. He's not famous. You know, He's
What will
not,
they give for me? They
Yeah,
might not
they'll-
give much for me, buddy.
yeah, they're not gonna get much for him.
Right.
But here's this person here, oh, we'll get a lot for them, so it's gonna limit that. You know, it is what it is, so, but we caved into that.
Yeah.
When we could have probably got something, a couple people with that.
When
that
you
same
hear
bargain.
these words, that was all that they would offer.
Then you
Meaning
shouldn't have took
them.
the deal.
You shouldn't have took the deal. You should, in the art of the deal, the art of negotiation is you hang up the phone. There's
But-
many times you hang up the phone or walk out of the room.
But we give the minister of, what is he? The minister of arms sales or whatever, I don't know what he's called.
Yeah.
You know, to the Ruskies while they're fighting people that we're supporting with foreign military sales.
Oh, you can bet that within 6 months he's full back in whatever he's doing anymore.
No doubt.
With a big chest.
You know, and he's willing and dealing probably
Mm-hmm.
right now as we speak. So anyway, so probably another one though, Coach, one that had major impact in the United States of America, I would venture to say was Supreme Court decision on Dobbs and Roe versus Wade, throwing it back down to the states, let them do their decisions, you know, and
That was a 50-year in the making.
yeah,
Big deal.
should have happened the first week that it was voted on back in '73. It didn't. People said, hey, people that doesn't understand the Constitution, doesn't understand how the Supreme Court works, and doesn't understand our laws, goes, hey, this was time tested. No, this isn't time tested.
Well,
'Cause-
so were a lot of other ones in our past that, I mean, just because the Supreme Court rules something doesn't mean that it's correct.
Yeah.
And then we saw that, you know, for many, many years. And then we sit with this, that it was ruled wrong in the beginning based on the Constitution. And it wasn't just
Even what's her name? The girl with the pearl necklace?
Yeah,
She even
exactly.
said that. What's her name? Ruth?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
said it, and most scholars that study, you know, the Constitution say this was not there is no constitutional right to an abortion, and the argument they made really shouldn't have been done. It was that those justices at that time all felt personally that this is something that should go forward. Then you take the ones now that said that through Dobbs, as we kick it back down to the states, and then the opposite argument from the other side is, oh, well, you believe ideologically that abortion shouldn't be done because of religion or whatever. That's so wrong. Well, that's the reason they ruled in the first place, was their ideology was wrong.
Yeah.
The thing is, the argument for or against abortion, that should be a personal one, but you should be allowed how it's going to be handled through the state that you live in, like we do with almost everything.
Everything else. Yeah. So, you know, kind of like, let me think. Hold on a second. Kind of like you can count votes in the third most populous state in the nation and have a hurricane 2 weeks prior and fix all the roads and get everybody taken care of in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And the least populous states can take 30 days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, that's the law. That's how it works.
And every state has different laws, and
Yeah.
not every state has the laws that you like, and if you live in a state that you like the laws, you stay there. If you live in a state you don't like the laws, you can move.
Now-
But that's why we have different states.
Now, I will say this, Coach. Supreme Court surprised me on that. I didn't think that, I honestly didn't think Roe versus Wade and Dobbs, Roe versus Wade, I didn't think it would ever be overturned. I can't think of the term it's used, but it's called those topics that they garner people to vote, but they never materialize.
Yeah.
And I felt that it fell in that category. I was wrong, I'll admit to it on that. Supreme Court surprised me on that. Because what the Supreme Court did is they brushed away everybody's feelings and they read the law.
Well, and you know, you and I feel that way, and there's people on the other side that feel what they did was they didn't look at the law, they looked at their emotions of being religious or right or whatever. So, like I said, it's just one of those issues, and we discuss it a lot of times in the class that I teach with law, is there's always going to be, in a diverse country that we have here, both sides to I don't call it I don't call it pro-choice, I call it pro-abortion and anti-abortion. And that's what we start doing. They are pro-abortion. It's
Yeah.
not pro-choice, it's pro-abortion. These people want abortions.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So moving along.
Yeah.
Well, and that affected the midterms. And,
big time.
In the midterms, we had them, like I just said, is some states were able to be more competent and count them in 24 hours, and other states, according to their law, but from perception, are less confident in counting.
Yeah.
And it does give some gray area in there and some doubt. And so it just, not that the elections were bad. Let me throw that
No.
out so YouTube don't throw me off.
Right.
But it casts a shadow of doubt at the end of the day. And I personally think that maybe there needs to be something done with that, but with internal of the state and not at the federal level.
Yeah, let's the states do it.
I would just be like this, it's kind of like this is if I feel like I'm a little overweight and I look at the coach who's not, maybe I need to adjust to maybe his eating plan instead of my eating plan. And maybe the states need to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Instead of have somebody tell them that, just California, Nevada, New Hampshire, Arizona probably need to look at Florida and Texas, and they do it like that, and you can't for some reason.
Right.
So, move on.
Another 2022 issue that I think that we will be talking about for 10 to 15, 20 years is inflation. The inflation of 2022 that has occurred after the pandemic, after some of the ridiculous policies that were put in place that did not make it any better. Some say, well, the Biden administration isn't directly the reason for it, but they are indirectly for sure by things that they wouldn't allow to be done, like drilling oil, doing oil and things here, and other things that they did by adding trillions of dollars to an issue.
Coach, let me throw something that's supposed to be coming out that President Biden wants from the East Coast, from Florida all the way up to Massachusetts, the speed limit of boating up to 100 miles out, up to 100 miles out, the speed of boating of any vessel that's over 30 feet to be reduced down to 15 nautical miles or something like
For
that
what?
per hour.
Not to hurt a fish?
Not to hurt this well that there's only been 5 incidents recorded in 15 years. This is the exact example of policies shooting themselves, not in the foot, but in the torso where you can't put a tourniquet over it, just like the pipeline incident. These are the policies that have...
Oh, but there's 9,000 wells that you could drill in, not telling the truth that they have put so many regulations and so many pods in place that it's not cost effective and it's
Yes.
almost impossible to get.
So these are the type of policies that exacerbated the inflation, where the inflation could have been controlled. And if I remember right, before he came into office, was there astronomical inflation?
No, inflation did start because we had a pandemic, but what you do when there's a problem is what fixes it or makes it a problem.
Yeah.
What Biden did was make things that could actually help it where you can't do those things, and things that you should not do when you have too much money spent, your budget's being jacked up, and prices are high, is you don't go spending.
Yeah. So I'm just, I don't know. I mean, it's like turn the turbo on or something. I mean, step on the gas and let's make sure we go down.
It's just economics 101 from a budgeting standpoint. If you and I had $3,000 a month that we're making, and we have $2,900 worth of bills, we can survive. But all of a sudden, if we start taking out loans and doing things and whatever, and all of a sudden we got $4,000 worth of debt every month, and we make $3,000, there's only 2 things that we can do. Number one, we can cut expenses.
Yep.
Or number 2, we have to get a second job.
Well,
you can't just keep adding to the debt.
So also I will say, I think the inflation number is imaginary. I've seen it around 10, 11%. But walk your goat-smelling butt to the grocery store and tell me, is eggs 10% or is eggs 200%? Go buy milk. Tell me what you got. I will give an example. As before 3 years ago, I said, wonder what it cost to do me an underground bunker in my darn thing, like have a storm cellar, kind of pimp it out and all this other such, 10 by 50. It was $43,000 to buy one now. I called the other day, it's $200K to buy one now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a matter of 3 years,
Yeah.
And anything that you do is like this. So the 11%, I don't know where we come up with 11%.
It's not even 11, it's like 7.7 now.
I don't know where we get 7.7 either.
Yeah.
Because when you go to the store, or unless they're doing 7.7 off last month, instead of doing 7.7 off 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're doing it 2 years ago, it is exacerbated
And
to...
now we can talk about another issue in 2022, and we kind of just piggyback on this, is look at the housing market that has now crashing.
Yeah.
For reasons that they're trying. The Fed always tries to do their little monkey wrench by, we're going to raise rates at this point to get people to quit spending and quit buying and quit getting loans and quit buying houses. Well, when you do that, yeah, it helps for a little bit, but it's not really helping us yet. But what it does, it puts a crash on people's jobs that are real estate people that are building, the housing markets. We can't even, like me, if I want to sell my house right now, I mean, I can't sell my house for what it was worth a year and a half ago. And if I go buy a house right now, I'm gonna pay, instead of 2.8% what we pay, we're gonna pay 7%
Yeah.
interest. I mean, so people are just sitting there.
So let's move on to some things that are not political related, but kind of just some things out there. We've had some notable deaths. The Queen passed away,
Yeah.
and she's been the Queen our whole entire
God
lifetime.
save the king now.
Yeah, it's going to be the King here in the spring, and I mean he is there, but they're going to do their coronation and everything else there.
God forbid that there'll be a bunch of liberals freaking out again.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I said this when I went to London this year, is I never heard anybody talk a bad word about the monarchy when I was there.
That's when the Queen was alive. I got a
That
feeling
is, I
now
agree.
it's
I
gonna
agree with
change.
that. But
Oh.
everybody was in unison about that, and it was her jubilee. of course.
Patriarchal man.
Yeah, yeah. So also we had a few other deaths. Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters passed away.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to see him a couple years ago, and I'm glad I did now. And maybe these bands might not want me to see him because he's the second person I've seen that's passed away.
Oh,
They might put me on the blacklist before it's all over with.
Yep.
And
I think it's something too, the LA Rams won the Super Bowl,
they did.
which was pretty important for two reasons, for me and for you. I mean,
Yep.
you lived up in Detroit. You were a Lions fan for a certain amount of time. I've always been a huge.
Slice fan, only because of residential.
Oh no, I understand that. And I was always a Matt Stafford fan because I had friends of mine that went to Highland Park and just kind of followed his career as a Scot, Highland Park Scot. And he's always a good guy. Always played on teams that they had a great offense but just didn't have a defense. Had whatever. But he just seemed to be a good guy. I know his wife went through some issues health-wise. So for him to finally get a Super Bowl was really big, and Aaron Donald to get a Super Bowl to me was pretty big too. I thought that was pretty awesome.
I think it was cool of Matthew Stafford. I got a lot of respect for him, although I give you a hard time about him.
Oh yeah.
But I have a lot of respect for Matthew Stafford. I think he was in probably purgatory up there in Detroit, just the way it is. But I thought it was kind of cool. The Cincinnati Bengals graced the Super Bowl for a long
It's been a long time since they'd been there since the 49ers, I guess.
Yeah,
Back when Sam White was coach and Boomer
in the 80s.
yeah.
Yeah.
So another big win was the Houston Astros winning the World Series, which was kind of big. I'm not a Houston Astros fan at all, but I'll say they always had the trash can gate and stealing signs, and this one they didn't have. So a lot of people, this is their first legit.
Yeah, in
World
some
Series.
people's minds, yeah.
But either way, they were a beast of a team.
Yeah.
I mean, they set records all year. They were the best team. This time, the best team actually won, and that was great. You think about it, we had the World Cup this year.
Yeah.
It just came to an end with Argentina.
Yeah.
Messi winning. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And that was and it went in sudden death where they did the kickoff. And
Right.
I don't know who Argentina's goalie is, but they need to pay that
Yeah,
man.
brother, there's a national
They need to
hero.
pay that man.
To be honest with you, today I actually was riding here. I shouldn't have been on my phone, but I was looking at ESPN and they're showing what is it called? A drone that's going through the streets of Argentina, and it is the biggest crowd I've ever seen in my life. And I started thinking, I even posted on Facebook, you're gonna see it later, it's gonna say, Trump's crowd was bigger.
Hey, you're going to have some friends disown you now.
I know,
So,
I thought that was funny.
I saw parts of it when I was sitting out
nuts.
here, and as I saw parts of it, I'm sitting there going, from my Army perspective, where's the safety officer at?
There can't be.
There's got to be a safety officer somewhere because he is getting fired.
What do you think the number of the people you saw, just offhand?
Oh,
I never saw him say anything, but it was,
200K maybe?
I really think once they give a crowd, it'll be somewhere between 800 and 1 million
Oh,
people.
I don't doubt it. Not there. There, I don't doubt it at all.
It was nuts,
Yeah,
nuts.
so-
It was great to see that. Those countries don't have football. They don't
Yeah.
have baseball. To them, soccer is, for what us was the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s, times 5.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know, easy.
You can't explain how it is outside of America because it's insane. So, with that, what's some personal things we got going on, Coach? Some good things happening in our
2022,
lives.
my daughter graduated from high school.
There we go.
That was a big one. Sydney B hitting the home run, getting out of high school. A big one for me personally was competing a couple times this year with the men's physique, doing well.
Yep.
I don't know. I have such a blessed life. It's like to name a list. It's almost like I'm bragging. I just have a beautiful wife, beautiful family. I can't believe I live in a dream home that I never I still walk in my house and go, I live here. And so, seeing, I guess one of the best things of 2020, I've seen so many friends that I'm grateful to have, but I've also, in a sad way, I've lost 2 friends this year that were really super close to my whole life, within a few weeks of each other. And one died, killed himself, and another one died at 50 years old because of a screw up on a surgery. It's just like within a 4-week period. So it was a pretty rough end of the year. But I tell people all the time, I've never ever been this happy, never been so grateful the life I have now, and friendships I have with you and people I have that are just lifetime stuff. I mean, we go to each other all the time. That's what friends do. I mean, people think you have a good friends are just complimentary. To guys, friends are people that grab your nipples when you walk by, push you, try to trip you, make fun of your haircuts.
That's how the Army is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were in football. That's what we were in sports. You pick on each other, and that's the kind of friendships I have. So.
Yeah. So.
And you writing 17 books this year, I think.
No, I didn't do that. But I did write my first book.
You did, and won a Pulitzer, right?
I wish. I wish. No, we're not nowhere near that. But I wrote my first book, and I learned a lot of lessons with that. And as a matter of fact, on my way over here, I was talking to the editor. She's about 118 pages in my second book. So I'm hoping to get it out in the spring. And I'm going to finish the third book, writing it, the rough draft, before... I'm going to finish it before New Year's.
Okay. You're going to do
Let me
this.
beat
You
on
better
some
leave right now.
Yeah. So, but that, and we moved into a new
I
home.
was just say, don't forget that, buddy. That's a
And
beautiful
that was
place.
something that we just had it was tight because we had grandkids with us, and it was well appreciated moving into a new home. And good things happened in my life. My daughter got a job. My wife and my daughter both got a CNA.
That's
and
awesome.
and we did some good traveling to reward my daughter, and the wife and I did some traveling that we really hadn't done before, and we kind of like that, so we're kind of enjoying that. And I've talked to a lot of friends, and some that I haven't talked to since I deployed in 2004, and some I got, and I'm going to say it like this, is they hang on to some heartaches or bitterness back then, and they're still hanging on, and I'm trying to help them out and advise them and say, hey, don't let that person keep that rent space in your head, man.
Exactly,
You're well
man.
past that. And most of them do get past it, but some of them are still struggling with it, and my heart goes out to them. I lost some good people that I know that as well. The one I deployed with, that we were fellow first sergeants together, and a great guy. And then I lost one about the same time you lost your friend to suicide. I just didn't talk about it much, and I was with him over in Germany. He was a good kid, good man, loving man, had a great family, and to this day I don't know how he passed. And I was shocked because when he came in the room, he brightened the day.
Made the room better.
Yeah.
There you go.
So.
Well, I mean, it's life, but, I hope 2023 brings some more smiles and happiness.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
we got a lot of stuff going on. I can already know there's so many things going on in our 2023 and our family. I'm excited.
It's going to be a good year.
Yes,
So
sir.
take the time, because it's going to come out here in a few days, and as you get it, take time, reflect on what was good and bad in your life. Not everything has to be about politics and world events. We always gravitate to our closeness. So with that, I'm going to say to the coach,
And to the vet.
stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.